Hello, beautiful people. This is Freedom Fighter. Thank you for tuning into our channel, Goldilocks Global Banking News. Everybody knows that Goldilocks is the #1 source for the RVGCR. People from around the world tune in to see what Goldilocks is sharing on the RVGCR. Don't miss your chance and get your latest updates every day. So like, share, and subscribe to this channel to get your daily podcast from the Goldilocks articles on the RVGCR. Brought to you by Freedom Fighter. Hello, beautiful people. This is Freedom Fighter, and welcome to Goldilocks Global Banking News. I'm your host, a beautiful, beautiful folks. Let me tell you something. If you missed the Saturday Night Dialogues call that we had this past Saturday, you missed a very, very powerful, insightful, detailed call whereby information was shared directly from the White House regarding currency exchanges. The exchange rates, to be specific, with other countries, connected to the whole entire global banking system. Now, again, today, folks, in the Goldilocks QFS Dialogues room, were many people, several people today announcing their successful relationships that they've established with their bankers. They're sharing that how they're in their second, third, fourth meetings with their bankers. Continued relationships that they are successfully building with their RV bankers. Real people meeting real people. None of this is so-called sources, so-called connected bankers. These are the actual bankers. God is giving you the ability, the God-given right to be blessed, to connect to these people. And you have a choice to meet them. You can click the link at the top of the description, folks, and join the Goldilocks QFS Dialogues room and the tribe. Myself and Wiley, we will help you. There's only 8 steps that for all of the success stories that you're hearing, there's only 8 steps that they're following. Now, no, it's just not follow the 8 steps and just cookie cutter, copy paste, and boom, you get the same results as everyone else. There's guidance, there's mindset, and we will help you with all of that. Click the link at the top of the description. We will show you the way. The clock is ticking. All right, folks. Today, Goldilocks is sharing yet more detailed information about Vietnam and what Vietnam is doing. This is all in writing, folks, whereby they are in preparations through these tariff negotiations, through the constitutions of Vietnam that they've changed, all in preparation to allow the Vietnamese dong to go up in value through market forces. Keyword, market forces. For those of you who've been following Goldilocks for a while, you know what that means. For those of you who have not been following Goldilocks, I would suggest you join the room, Goldilocks QFS Dialogues room. Maybe ask us. Go back and watch some videos to learn. But many of this is the discussions that even our members are having with their bankers based on following Goldilocks. Folks, these private wealth managers and these wealth managers at tier one banks, they know what's happening. They know what's coming. They know what's going on. Your relationships will determine whether or not you get to that point of having those discussions. We will show you. What Goldilocks is stating about Vietnam, what Goldilocks is showing about Vietnam, there are several sources discussing the broader context of the U.S.-Vietnam trade negotiations, whereby Vietnam's pursuit of emerging market status and the factors, folks, influencing the exchange rate of the Vietnamese dong versus the U.S. dollar. Now, let me pause. When Goldilocks says several sources discussing this context, Goldilocks shares the sources from the direct sources, the bankers, the international bankers, international banks, the institutions, and the governments. So when Goldilocks says several sources, Goldilocks shares those sources. I had to make sure I clarified that so that you don't get the impression of a source being some person, some entity behind a curtain that we can't discuss who they are. They're secret sources. No. None of that. None of that BS. The sources that Goldilocks is referencing directly from from the Vietnam's government, directly from the International Monetary Fund, directly from the White House, directly from the Commodities Future Trade Commission, and many global, international news outlets that are reporting this, and Goldilocks has shared the links. So Goldilocks analyzed all of this information as data and is presenting it. See, the trade negotiations with the United States is very important to the appreciation of the Vietnamese dong and also for Vietnam to be classified into an emerging market status. Now, yes, it's been announced that there's a 20% tariff and the negotiations have been completed with Vietnam and the U.S., but that is not 100% accurate. We have seen, Goldilocks and I have seen, and Wiley as well has seen, that Vietnam is actually still negotiating their tariff agreement with the United States in the hopes of that 20% tariff to be reduced. The ongoing negotiations, folks, makes a huge difference in many different ways. Vietnam's pursuit, Goldilocks is sharing, for an emerging market status is huge. Because right now, folks, Vietnam is classified as what's called a frontier market. And I'm going to just... let's say in the grade school scale of A through F, A passing grade, F being failing grade. I'm just using that as an example. Vietnam, on that grading scale, as an economy or status, classification of an economy, is an F. If Vietnam is reclassified as an emerging market economy, that immediately jumps them to, let's say, a B+, passing grade. But just like if someone were to get a failing grade of an F in class, and the teacher tells them, Johnny, go back, study, make some corrections, come back, ask questions, make some changes, Study and learn the material. Apply yourself, Johnny. Come back and take the test. Johnny follows those directions by the instructor. Comes back and gets a B+. That means that Johnny, hopefully without cheating, did all of the necessary homework and steps that the professor requested. The changes, the shift, the corrections. See, folks, Vietnam has been looking to achieve this emerging marking status for over 10 years. They got their F grade 10 years ago. But for the last 10 years, they've been making changes so that they can come back and ultimately take the test and get a higher grade this time. The expectation of them in September to be upgraded to an emerging market status by the FTSE Russell, which is an international stock exchange. They've been checking off all of the boxes for passing this test coming up. Actually, they've already, to a certain extent, have passed the test without taking it. But just think of sitting down and officially taking the test to get the results. Let's say that. The results are expected to come out in September. Emerging marking status would be a B+. Between an F grade and a B+ grade, there will have to be an increase in the value of their currency. It's not overnight, but this is why Goldilocks has always said and has shown that a floating exchange rate for them and other countries except Iraq will be continuous for several years. Think of so many of these countries, like Vietnam and others, who have depended on the United States dollar for 50 plus years, depended on the U.S. aid for 50 plus years. And depending on that U.S. dollar, folks, is because the U.S. dollar has been the world reserve currency, the strongest currency in the world. No, not the highest rate like the Kuwaiti dinar, 3 something. But the dollar is still stronger than the Kuwaiti dinar. So, my point is this. It's like Vietnam and these other countries that are in the midst of these negotiations with the U.S. They've been on training wheels for the last 50 plus years as it pertains to their economies and the strength of their economies to allow the global economies, the global market, to determine their rates. Because these countries like Vietnam, Iraq, and others have controlled the rates of their currencies, falsely suppressing them, devaluing their currencies, enjoying the comfort of training wheels. Well, these tariffs force these countries to get off those training wheels so that their economies can grow up and put their big panties on and play with the big boys like the bigger economies in the world. The rising tide raises all ships. Vietnam and these other countries will be forced to float on the water just like the rising tide. This is where President Trump has always said he will level the playing field because of countries devaluing their currencies. How else to level the playing field? tariffs, trade. So Vietnam, with all of the indications showing, all of the receipts backing that they are in motion in the process of achieving this status. There's a short-term and a long-term effects of these tariffs. What Goldilocks is stating is that even at a reduced rate of the 20% tariffs, there's a major factor causing the US dollar and Vietnamese dong exchange rate is expected to be even more volatile in the third quarter of this year. Volatility is great, folks, because those rates of the Vietnamese dong have been very stagnant in the basement for many years. Actually, there are wealth management firms that are already seeing the fluctuation in the rates and sharing that reality with many of our members. But guess what? You don't hear that nowhere else but with us and our members. That is because we have given our members the actual facts as it pertains to the process of the RV and how it will happen and how it is in motion. See, Vietnam and the changes that they've made, negotiations will result in bilateral trade agreements with the U.S. And the expectations is that it will progress them towards an emerging market status. And it is expected, as a result of that, that it will strengthen the value of the Vietnamese dong floating over time. What Goldilocks is stating is that while no articles directly state that continued U.S.-Vietnam trade negotiations and an upgrade to emerging market status will definitely change the Vietnamese dong exchange rate, the evidence suggests the potential impacts. See, the articles won't say what will happen to the rates. The articles and the data, the indicators and information just shows the expectations. See, they can't just come out and say, oh yeah, the rate's going to go up. That's the equivalent of insider trading and putting it out into the open. But if you have someone trained and skilled, like Goldilocks, that can see it and share it, gives you an advantage. What Goldilocks is sharing is that successful negotiations that secure lower tariffs and progress toward emerging market status could boost Vietnam's export competitiveness, meaning opening their markets to the world. While there's no definitive confirmation, Vietnam's stock market is strongly expected to be upgraded to emerging market status by the FTSE Russell, which is a global international stock exchange, and also the MSCI. The indicators show that is likely. What Goldilocks is stating is that it's important to note that the U.S. has what's called, folks, red flags showing up on the September markets. An inclusion of the Vietnamese introductory product offerings would balance some of those red flags. What are red flags? Showing deficiencies in the U.S. market for September. If Vietnam is upgraded by the FTSE Russell to emerging market status, that would eliminate the deficiencies for the U.S. Meaning, why? Because if Vietnam is included as an emerging market, on this particular stock exchange? Well, folks, that stock exchange is connected to the U.S. markets. So that means the Vietnamese financial markets will instantly be available to the U.S. Think of plugging in. Think of plugging in something into the wall, a plug into the wall. Hitting the switch, if you will. The lights come on. Instant access for electricity. So, the deficiencies in the U.S. markets that are expected in the third quarter, it'll be a win for the U.S. and for Vietnam for the FTSE Russell to reclassify Vietnam as an emerging market. It instantly opens Vietnam to the rest of the world, to the financial markets around the world that they have never been a part of. As a result, the Vietnamese dong will be accessible to markets, international markets around the world that the dong has never been accessed as a part of before. Goldilocks is concluding that this is why, most likely, Vietnam will have their inclusion of products inside of our markets in September via the FTSE Russell. It will also go a long way for them to meet their upgraded goals to an emerging market that allows them to appreciate the Vietnamese dong. Continue to watch the water, folks. This is a process. We can clearly see what is happening. And I will share this. There's no coincidence that wealth managers are sharing with our members what they see regarding the global markets. These wealth management firms, these banks, they're involved. They're the ones that move the currencies around the world. It's a win-win for them, a win-win for the U.S., and a win-win for Vietnam and all of the countries around the world that trade with Vietnam, that trade with the U.S., and trade with each other. Everything is connected to everything, folks. When you see the picture from a bird's eye view, from the top down, there's a better level of calmness and confidence to know what you hold. When it comes to the dong, don't let it go. Hold on, folks. Be well, stay kind, folks. Stay grounded. We love you. Ciao.
Hello, beautiful people. This is Freedom Fighter. Thank you for tuning into our channel, Goldilocks Global Banking News. Everybody knows that Goldilocks is the #1 source for the RVGCR. People from around the world tune in to see what Goldilocks is sharing on the RVGCR. Don't miss your chance and get your latest updates every day. So like, share, and subscribe to this channel to get your daily podcast from the Goldilocks articles on the RVGCR. Brought to you by Freedom Fighter.